Hey, what's up, YouTube family? It's your favorite black guy from Nebraska. And yes, there are plenty of black people here in Nebraska. We're going to take a little bit of a break from our regular programming from the America's the True World. I know you guys love that book. I love it too. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Today, we're going to read from the book called The Negro Trailblazers of California. Let me remind you, we're on archive.org. This is a free internet library. It's got 44 million books inside of this free online library. All right, you can find books like these. You look like this one, The Negro Trailblazers of California. You can find books like this that I'm going to be doing content on. They Were White and They Were Slaves, The Untold History of the Enslavement of Whites in Early America. So, I mean, this stuff is like literally diamond in the rough stuff that you have to find. Okay, but if you want to find something, what do? You guessed it, you put it in the book. But of course you knew that already. So this book is by Delilah Beasley. This is Miss Delilah right here. And this book is factual, a compilation of records from the California Archives and Bancroft Library at the University of California in Berkeley, and from the diaries, old papers, and conversations of old pioneers in the state of California. It is a true record of facts, okay, as they pertain to the history of the pioneer and present day Negroes of California. Okay, so all of this stuff is basically government record. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about who California was named after. All right, which individual was California named after? A lot of you guys already know it, but some of you guys don't know the actual story behind it, and that's what we're going to go over here in this chapter. Okay, Chapter 1, the discovery of the name of California. And you guys, I know the setup is it's a little roguish, it's a little ghetto, but that's all right because it's all about the information, right? So don't hold it to my head, hold it to my heart. Or don't hold it to my heart, hold it to my head. I forgot how that goes, but you know what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and get started. We are told by historians that for centuries before California was discovered, every explorer started out to find the Northwest Passage to the Indies and the 7 cities of Cibolia. These cities were reputed to be rich in turquoise and gold. I think even in this day, if explorers were told that somewhere undiscovered there were cities with houses of gold and pillars of turquoise, that they would sacrifice everything, even life if necessary. That might behold such beautiful cities on earth. Consequently, when Columbus sailed on the 4th voyage of discovery, he wrote a letter to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Original note in his level best by Hale. This letter contained the following in regard to the South Seas, then undiscovered and known to us as the Pacific Ocean. I believe if I should pass under the equator, in arriving at this high region in which I speak, I should find a milder temperature and a diversity in the stars and in the waters. Not that I believe that the highest point is navigable whence these currents flow, nor that we can mount them, because I am convinced that there is terrestrial paradise which none can enter but by the will of God. Immediately following Columbus's letter, Mr. Hale quotes from Dante's Divina Commedia and Longfellow's notes to the Purgatories to prove that Columbus had these writings in mind when he made use of the passage referring to the terrestrial paradise which none can enter but by the will of God. The writer would not attempt to say these writings influenced the words of this great, though unsuccessful, attempt to discover the Northwest Passage or where the cause of his speaking thus, but if we follow the trend of discovery and occupation on this coast, we will find Columbus's words like the notes of a beautiful symphony ringing through it all. None can enter but by the will of God. This letter was written by Columbus in the year 1503, and in the year 1510, there was published in Spain a romance called Las Sargas de Esplandian by Garcia Ordonez, de Montalvo, translator of Amadis of Gaul. In this novel, the author speaks of the island of California. The name is spelled the same as it is today. It has been said that Cortez had the romance in mind when he discovered and named the peninsula in 1535. For this statement, we have the authority of the historian Herrera. California. What a charm the name carries with it. There seems to be a romantic inspiration in the very pronunciation, but whence did it originate? We are told that for years, scholars debate its origin, one tracing it to the Latin, another to the Greek, others claiming that it was given by the natives. The reading public refused to accept as satisfactory any of the statements offered until after Mr. Edward Everett Hale read a paper before the American Antiquarian Society at a meeting held in Boston, April 1862. In this paper, Mr. Hale told of having read a Spanish romance called Los Sargas de Esplandian by Garcia de Montalvo. In this book, the author speaks of the island of California with the same spelling for the name, California. Mr. Hale explained that the failure of the great authors to find the origin of the name California was because that after 1542, no edition of the Sargas of Esplandian was printed in Spain, so far as we know, until 1575, and after that in 1587, and none for 270 years more. The reaction had come when the curate burned the books of Don Quixote. He burned this among the rest. He saved Amadis of Gaul, but he burned Esplandian. We will not spare the son for the virtues of the father. These words show Cervantes' estimate of it as early as 1605. Mr. Hale further stated that when he read the romance pertaining to the island of California and noted the similarity of spelling, there were only 2 copies in the world, one copy in Mr. Tinkler's collection in the Public Library of Boston, Mass., and another copy in the Congressional Library in Washington, D.C. But Mr. Hale, in his level best, gives a chapter from this romance, an extract of which is now quoted. Chapter Lizardus Expedition. Know ye that on the right hand of the Indies there is an island called California, very near the terrestrial paradise, which is peopled with black women without any men among them, because they were accustomed to live after the fashion of the Amazons. All right. They were of strong and hardy bodies, of ardent courage, and of great force. The island was the strongest in the world. From its steep rocks and great cliffs, their arms were all of gold, and so were the caparisons of the wild beasts which they rode after having tamed them. For in all the island there is no other metal but gold. There lived in caves very well worked out of rocks with much labor. They had many ships in which they sailed to other climes to carry on their forage to obtain booty. The various Christian knights assembled to defend the emperor of the Greeks and the city of Constantinople against the attacks of the Turks and the infidels, and on the occasion the Queen of California and her court entered this war. The discovery of the name is equally as interesting as the land of California. The story of the ox team and prairie schooner to California after the discovery of gold readily recalls to mind the words of Columbus, "None can enter but by the will of God." It has been said that on the trail of the ox team to California, or the El Dorado, meaning the home of the Gilded One, were strewn with bleaching bones of persons who lost their lives trying to reach the land of California. Columbus longed to discover that he thought he must be a land very near the terrestrial paradise. Let the reader compare his wish to the oft-repeated expression that California is next door to heaven, an expression frequently made by Eastern tourists after their first winter in California. The modern writers speak of the land of California as the land of heart's desire. It is generous to mankind. It could supply almost the entire United States with its decadus and citrus fruits, its cotton, rice, gold, silver, and quicksilver. Any time of the year, somewhere in California, there are fresh vegetables growing. Nature seems to be inexhaustible in its desire to please mankind and supply his every wish. If one is of an artistic temperament, he can have that instinct developed without the aid of any other teacher, save a constant view of the beautiful valleys, lofty mountains, and glorious and bewitching sunsets. The great variety of wildflowers which is in the spring time cover like a carpet the foothills and valleys of the high Sierras, scattered with the gold of the poppies, the blue of the lupin, while violets and buttercups make a picture of perfect harmony. Few artists can paint a picture of spring in California and tell with the brush half of its inspiring beauty. It has been said that following the rainy season, the wildflowers on Mount Tamalpais near San Francisco are of so many varieties that is given for a fact that 325 different kinds and colors adorn its dells and canyons. Aside from wildflowers, California abounds in majestic palms and magnolias, crepe myrtle, and pepper trees. The shrubbery and small flowering trees of every species known to civilized man from all parts of the United States, Japan, and Australia grow in California in all their beauty as they would in their native land. The part of Columbus' wish in this letter to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, I believe that if I should pass under the equator in arriving at this high point of which I speak, I should find a milder temperature and a diversity in the stars and in the waters. Not that I believe that the highest point is navigable, whence these currents flow, nor that we can amount them, because I am convinced that there is a terrestrial paradise which none can enter but by the will of God. The people of the entire world are realizing this wish now that the Panama Canal has been completed and vessels are thereby enabled to pass through the equator and not under in passing through the locks and waters of the canal. The repeated and unsuccessful attempt of the French government to cut the canal and the difficulty the American government encountered in the terrible battles between the forces of nature and the engineering skill of the American civil engineers, however, led as if by the will of God to a final completion of a navigable canal. Note Columbus's words, none can enter but by the will of God. Let the reader compare the fictitious California as given in the Spanish romance and the present-day American state of California. The fictitious California was supposed to be rich in gold, and so is the real California. The fictitious supposed to have been the home of beautiful black women with strong and hardy bodies. The writer challenges the world to produce more beautiful women than the state of California. They are strong and hardy because they engage in almost every kind of outdoor exercise, often acquiring a heavy coat of tan. This does not worry them in the least, for they immediately proceed to sleep out of doors by night, confident in the fact that if too much golf and tennis has produced this tan, the glorious fall comes in through the Golden Gate and down the valley and kisses roses into their cheeks, making them the most beautiful and healthy appearing women in all of the world. If Columbus had ever reached California, he would not only have thought it was very near the terrestrial paradise, but he would have said with Joaquin Miller, "Be this my home till some fair star stoop earthward and shall beckon me. For surely God land lies not far from these Greek heights and the great sea. My friend, my lover, trend this way, not far along lies already." So That is the first chapter. The next chapter is the beginning of discovery of California with Fier Marco and the Negro guide Estevancio, together with Coronado and the Negro priest. And the final discovery by Cortez, the ex-viceroy of Mexico in 1535. So that's the first chapter. And they talk about the black Amazonian women that were here in California, and that is believed as to be inspired the name California. Her name is Queen Khalifa. That's not in here, but the information is available if you look for it. So is California named after a group of Amazonian women? There seems to be evidence here that suggests so. So, like I said, you guys can look this book up. The Negro Trailblazers of California. I just read you chapter 1, and who on what California was named after. Black Amazonian women. It's your favorite black guy from Nebraska. Yes, there's plenty of black people in Nebraska. I'm out. Peace.